Hello, everyone. Respected International President, Distinguished Toastmaster Richard Peck, District Director of District 98, Distinguished Toastmaster Niteash Agarwaal, my fellow district officers, members of District 98, and beloved guests. I welcome you all for the season finale of Beyond Toastmasters episode, Season 2, Episode 8. My name is Krishnakanth. I am currently serving as an area director of Area E2, District 98. I am also event coordinator of Beyond Toastmasters Initiative. Beyond Toastmasters Initiative is an initiative of District 98. It is the first online talk series of District 98. So far, we have two seasons, season 1 with eight episodes and season 2 with eighth episode running today. Beyond Toastmasters Initiative aligns with our Toastmasters International mission, which is we empower individuals to become more effective communicators and leaders. At Beyond Toastmasters, we believe that Toastmasters International doesn't alone make you exemplary speakers and leaders. In fact, the lessons learned in this journey help you hone your life skills that contribute to your success beyond Toastmasters, and that will also help you at your personal and professional fronts. Along with our core motto of influencing your leadership journey, our efforts are directed towards achieving our District 98 mission, which is we build new clubs and support all clubs in achieving excellence. We hold the values of Toastmasters International in the highest regard and shall adhere to guidelines set forth by Toastmasters International throughout the session. Now here, before we start the proceedings, I would like to share a small story from the experience which I have from this beautiful Beyond Toastmasters initiative. In August 28, 2020, we have our first episode completed and we are planning to go for the second episode of Beyond Toastmasters. At that time, one person asked me the feedback of the first episode. I said, yeah, it was good, cool. We have people on different speakers attending our Beyond Toastmasters initiative. Then he told, who else can we invite, KK? Then I told, we can invite multiple people. We can invite a YouTuber. We can invite a beauty pageant. We can invite anybody because it is online model and we can have their experience in our Beyond Toastmasters episode. And then he shared one thing before ending the call. I want to invite our international president, KK. But it is not that easy. We cannot do this alone. We need a core team. We need support from all our district leaders. I'll talk to our district director, Niteash. Tomorrow I'll set up a meeting. Please join. We'll discuss. I have a plan. I want to implement it. After that, I opened a new tab, not the Netflix one, a new tab, and I searched International President Toastmasters International. That was the first time I came to know that a role like this exists. Because I'm new to Toastmasters, I'm restricted to district director. I never went beyond that. That is the day I realized, okay, Toastmasters has go beyond districts and there is somebody who monitors, who helps, and who also runs this our program. I closed the tab, end of the story. But why am I sharing this story now? Because the person whom I'm going to introduce, the moderator of today's episode, these are the words of that person. I closed the tab, but he didn't close that tab in his brain. That was there active from August 2020. He worked so hard. He is someone who believes in himself. If we strongly believe in anything, that belief will take forward to achieve our goals. He is the one who also believes in creating opportunity to make leaders. Distinguished Toastmaster Manideep is a moderator for today's episode. He is also my division director, Division E director of District 98. He is also event lead for this Beyond Toastmasters initiative. Distinguished Toastmaster Manideep has been immense in discovering himself in the world of Toastmasters for 9 long years. He helped charter 13 high-performing clubs in Division EFGH, served as a club sponsor, mentor, as an area director during 2019-20. He has supported all the active clubs in the area E1 to achieve President Distinguished status. and successfully led the first kind of biggest offline PR event of District 98 for 10 long days in the city of Hyderabad. Distinguished Toastmaster Manideep has recently been awarded as the District Leader of the Year in our District 98 for the year 2020. When he's not attending Toastmasters meetings, he loves to run marathons or lead expeditions to Himalayas. A passionate advocate for saving lives from road accidents, an ardent believer of the philosophy to live and let live. Currently, he is serving as the president of world's first Telugu-only Toastmaster Club. Please put your hands together for the moderator for today's episode, distinguished Toastmaster Manideep. Over to you, Manideep.
Thank you very much, KK, for the warm introduction. You have left me speechless. Without your support, nothing could have been possible. Although Beyond Toastmasters is my dream, you have made it into a reality, and thank you very much. And a thanks can never be enough. Hello, namaste, namaskaram, namaskar, kemcho to all the members of District 98 and beyond. We welcome you all to Beyond Toastmasters, a District 98 initiative. Tonight, we are delighted to have a super special guest. I am pleased to introduce Toastmasters International's International President, Richard E. Peck. For over 30 years, Richard was a senior member of the Network Support Division at AT&T. The Seymour, Connecticut resident led across cross-functional teams to successfully deliver multi-million-dollar high-tech projects. Outside of Toastmasters, Richard has served as club president and lieutenant governor for Kiwanis International. He is a member of Lions Club and has also worked in various capacities with the Catholic War Veterans. He also holds a board seat in his local town government. Richard is a professionally licensed race car driver, and in his limited spare time, he can be found at the racetrack as either a driver or as a spectator. A Toastmaster since 2006, Richard is a member of Nutmeg Toastmasters Club in Woodbridge, Connecticut, and is also currently of Park City Toastmasters Club in Stratford, Connecticut. I will always be grateful to Richard for sending a special welcome video during the charter of our Spurti Telugu Toastmasters Club. Let's all join together and welcome our International President, distinguished Toastmaster Richard E. Peck. Richard, the virtual stage is all yours.
Well, thank you, Manny, and welcome everybody to this meeting today, this Beyond Toastmasters webinar. How many of you actually heard about Toastmasters well before you attended a meeting? And not too many, only a few hands went up. To be honest with you, I knew nothing about Toastmasters before it was accidentally, if you will, directed to me. Let me tell you about my story, how I got involved and what continues to get me thrilled about our organization, keeps me committed like you are. It was 2006, as you heard, that's when I joined Toastmasters. I was attending a How to Become a Millionaire seminar. We all want to know how to become a millionaire, right? And we all want to do it quick. Well, at that seminar, I learned how to become a millionaire. It was to be the guy on the stage selling the product from the back of the room to the person sitting in my seat. We've all been to those type of sessions before, right? Somebody on the stage, got books in the back, got programs in the back. Who do you think's becoming the millionaire? The guy on the stage who's selling it, right? Because you're giving him the money. Well, at that event, I met a motivational speaker. It was the first time I had ever seen him. His name, some of you may be familiar with, is Les Brown. If you don't know who Les Brown is, I would suggest looking him up on YouTube or Googling him and listen to some of his speeches. Very, very down-to-earth person. He was actually a Golden Gavel recipient back in the 70s, I believe. And he's still actively involved with helping Toastmasters in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States. But I digress. I apologize. After the seminar, I met Les in the hallway. We started striking up a conversation. I think it was more that he was interested in the tone of my voice and wanted to learn more about me. During the conversation, here's the question that was asked. Some of you may have heard this question before. Have you ever thought about getting into public speaking? What an odd question to ask somebody, right? Have you ever thought about getting involved in public speaking? To be honest with you, I was mid-career at that point. I was doing okay for myself. Hadn't really thought about changing my career. Hadn't even thought about public speaking. And I essentially gave him that answer. Now, I don't think he was really happy with that answer. I think he was hoping that I would engage more. But he gave me his business card, and he went on to see the rest of the participants at the seminar. And I went back to my office. Well, after a couple weeks of the cubicle farm life, you know, where you're in that cubicle at work and you're always like this, looking to see who's coming by your desk, the words began gnawing at the back of my head. Have you ever thought about public speaking? So I decided to give Les a call and ask him a little bit more. And the question that I asked that changed everything for me was, if you were going to recommend public speaking to someone, what would you recommend? And without skipping a beat, he said, find a Toastmasters club. Find a Toastmasters club. I didn't know anything about Toastmasters. I had to Google it, find out what it was, who it was, where it was. And I found a club that was near my house. So I went, attended the first meeting, became interested in it. They treated me nice. You know, I wasn't just left by my own. They put someone with me to explain the meeting like you all do at your club meetings. And I decided to join. So when I went back on the next meeting, I brought back my membership form and my money, paid the fee. One of the gentlemen in my club named Tom Fitch became very, very excited that I joined. I couldn't understand why someone would be that excited that I joined. Well, he happened to be the area governor at the time, area director that you have now. That was the last membership payment that Nutmeg Club needed to become distinguished. Additionally, that was the last distinguished club he needed to have a distinguished area for himself. So he was super excited that I paid the tab. And I began giving speeches and competing, but nowhere along the line was there any thought of leadership. It was about developing what I thought were speaking skills. Come to find out, it was communication skills. You know, some of us, when we're in a type of industry, when we have a type of training, we know how to speak to individuals in that trade, in that arena, but we don't know how to necessarily communicate well with others. So I started learning that it was more than just speaking. It was the way it was said, how it was said, everything that went into it. And as KK said earlier, I didn't know there was an international president. That was not even a thought. I was more concerned with my club and being an officer in my club, competing in speech contests. And then, not long into the journey, about a year and change into the journey, it suddenly took a shift, an unexpected one. I received a call from a gentleman by the name of Will Ryan. Will was the district governor at the time. And he called me up to say that an area director had stepped down for personal reasons and would like to know if I'd be interested in taking on the position. Now, two immediate concerns rushed through my head. One, what's an area director or area governor? And two, how did the district director even know who I was? I had been pretty good at flying under the radar unless I was competing in speech contests. Now, I didn't know anything about the role, so I agreed to meet with him. Those of you who are district directors, I know you're going to nod when I say this. You met with the candidate for area director role, and you explained to them the position. The question is, did you explain the position, or did you explain what they needed to hear so that they would take on the role? Because we know afterwards, as area governors, area directors, we're going, I wasn't told that. I didn't know I was going to have to plan a speech contest. I didn't know I was have to do these things. So I'm still not sure whether he told me what I needed to hear or whether he really gave me all the information necessary at the time. But it didn't matter. I'm not the type of person that when someone calls me, someone asks me a question, that I'm going to let fail. I'm going to let down. So I said, I'll take on the role. Can I be honest? I was awful at it. I was 6 months into the term, knew nothing about the role, didn't really get the mentoring that we sometimes like to get, so wasn't really good at it, but enjoyed it. So I decided to take it on for a second term. How many of you have always said, oh, I wish I could do this one more year, because just as I got to the end of the first year, I really knew what I had to do. So I took it on a second year and enjoyed it, learned more, learned that the ability to reach people is so much greater once you get beyond the club level. The ability to make impact. So I went on to the area director. Then I decided, oh, why not? Let's go for division director, bigger sphere of influence, see if I can help more people. And the trend continued. I went from area to division, division to the trio. It was a nonstop leadership journey. It was an unexpected leadership journey. But it was a leadership journey that when I reflected back upon, I learned a lot from. So after I completed my term as a district leader, and I don't think you ever truly complete your term as a district leader, because even when that title goes away, you're still there to support your district. You're still there mentoring. I know Brilliant and Arvind and those of you who have been past district leaders are still there helping and mentoring and guiding when asked, that you're not in there throwing in information just to throw in information. So when that role was over, I decided that I felt I had more to offer the organization. I had, in that time frame of all the district leadership roles, achieved my master's in international business. And there was a class in there that I took that made such an impact on me. Have you ever had one class that's changed your outlook, changed your view, and it becomes something that you constantly fall back on? Well, the class that I took was just prior to having to go to Central and Eastern Europe to do a cohort. And it was a class on cultural awareness and understanding, cultural dynamics. That's something that a lot of us don't necessarily think about. The difference in culture, how what we see impacts us, but also how what we do impacts others. And we miss those dynamics occasionally. So having had that in the background, completing my district leadership role, realizing that impact and the ability to influence can get larger as you increase your leadership ability, decided that in a global organization, I wanted to help bring some of that knowledge that I had as we continue to expand around the world, to make sure that we weren't so siloed in our thoughts that we weren't realizing the differences and the needs of others. So in 2013, I ran for the board of directors and was lucky enough to be elected to that position. The members voted me in. It was a very tight race between me and the other candidates, which just goes to show that there were two very strong individuals for that role, and the membership knew that. But I served as the international director from 2013 to 2015, and we made a number of changes in there that I think helped our organization move forward. One of the things that we did was we had the first, I used to say it was the first international convention. Boy, there goes to show how you miss things, right? It was the first international convention for people from North America. It had always been an international convention for people outside of North America. And in 2014, we went to Malaysia for the first time, to Kuala Lumpur. But as we were preparing to go there, I wanted to make sure that everyone knew about Malaysia, about the culture, about the people. So we were getting cultural awareness documents prepared so that everyone knew what they would see and how to approach things. So I thought that that was a great direction that we went within the organization. So it was a successful 2 years on the board of directors. In 2015, I rolled off. And I decided that I was going to try to be an officer now. Take that next step and run for the executive committee. And in 2016, I ran in Washington, D.C. For those of you who were at that convention, know that prior to last year's 24-hour business meeting, that was probably the longest business meeting we had. 6 candidates for second vice president. 6. And this was prior to us having the 10% rule, where if you didn't get 10% of the vote, you automatically went off. It was roll one off at a time. So you can imagine how many votes we had to go through. For those of you who have been there, know that the clickers don't always work. There's always a conga line at some point in time. The numbers kept changing. Eventually, I went out on the second to last vote. Deepak Menon, my friend, became your international president in 2016. It was a stark realization for me about leadership at that point. Because as I left the room feeling defeated, any of you who have lost an election before feel that way, feel that, geez, what could I have done differently? What did I do wrong? Of course, I'm from the United States, and I just said, well, the election was wrong. It had to be wrong. The voting was wrong. How could I lose? Until I really, really reflected on my leadership journey and realized that in most of my leadership journey, I hadn't really won anything. Now that sounds odd, right? You went through the leadership roles, you've served on the board. How did you win nothing? Well, most of those roles were uncontested. Do you really push yourself to be better, to improve when you're uncontested? Or do you just say, hey, there's nobody running against me. I'll just do the same thing. I'll just be the same person. And then you don't develop those skills. You don't understand the challenges and the needs. And in 2016, after I lost that election, I realized that although I had grown as a leader, I hadn't continued to push myself every time for the next role. So after long discussions with my family and friends, I decided I would run again, and 2017 was elected to second vice president, and have since then been on the executive committee and now serving as the international president. As I reflected upon this year in the journey, this is a year that no one could have ever predicted. No one, for any of us. Can you imagine taking on the district leadership role or taking on an organizational leadership role in July 1st of 2020, knowing that you're in the midst of a global pandemic, that you don't know from one minute to the next what's going to happen. It's too uncertain. It's too challenging. Yet, you know what? None of our leaders ran away. None of our leaders ran away. And in my inaugural speech, I said, leaders don't run away from challenges. They run towards it. And you did that this year. Whether you were a club officer or a district leader, you ran towards the challenge. And I'm proud of you for that. You see, we focus on two key items in Toastmasters. We focus on communication, we focus on leadership. There's one thing that we often don't talk about, we often overlook, and that's the support we have for each other, the need to help others reach farther than they think they can, the need to help others be successful. And in this year of a pandemic, this year when we were told to stay away, stay quarantined, stay inside, people needed that more. They needed it more. And each and every one of you have done that. Each and every one of you have continued to reach out to give someone a helping hand, to pull them forward when they didn't think they could go on, when they thought it was going to be too tough. As leaders, you have set the mark for what's to come. You have written the book of history that was never expected. But even the members themselves shone brightly during these times. One of the things that I noticed throughout this year was that the greatest barrier became a time zone, not travel, just a time zone. And if you could get up early, stay up late, you could be anywhere in the world. And I watched members traveling around the world, meeting with clubs. It might have been 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning for them, but they were there to support one another. They weren't district leaders. They weren't club leaders. They were members reaching out to help others. Truly a testament to who we are as an organization and who we are as people. You know, we often start out thinking our lives are a straight line journey from beginning to end with a goal in mind. The problem is, if you live in a straight line journey, you miss all the thrills along the side. You miss all the opportunities to see something different. My journey from club member to international president was not a straight line journey by any imagination. But because I was willing to take it, because I was willing to veer from what I thought was the course, I gained so much more. I learned so much more about myself and about our members. If I could leave you with one takeaway, it's if someone calls and asks, would you be willing to help out? Say yes. You just never know where it's going to take you. You just never know who you might make an impact on. The world's in the palm of your hands. Grab it and change it. Manny, back to you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for sharing your story with all of us, Richard. It is so inspiring that from becoming a member in 2006 to becoming an international president, we are fortunate to be serving during the time of the pandemic, where nobody has done that before. So, Richard, you have been a member of Toastmasters for more than 15 long years. So, what was the motivating force behind you to stay in Toastmasters?
Manny, that's a great question. You know, there's a lot of organizations, as you mentioned, that I belong to. They're community global service organizations. For many of them, you can write a check and you never see what the impact is, right? You're giving it to a project, yet you hope that the money is being used and that the project will be proper. Our organization is different in the fact that you physically can see change in people, right? Think about it. The first time you went to a club meeting, the first time you had a guest at your club meeting, we asked them to do table topics, right? One of the most terrifying things for even seasoned veterans is table topics. Who'd like to do table topics? Not me. Yet we ask the guests to do it, right? And they get up there to the lectern and they're squeezing, their knuckles are becoming white. They may get to the 1 minute mark, they may not. They sit down, the VP of E's looking at the table topics master going, well, we just lost another one. Yet that guest comes back and joins. And then they start getting the support and the mentoring. And you watch them go from that scared individual to someone who's got self-confidence to go up there and take charge and lead and compete in speech contests sometimes, become district leaders. And you get to watch that and witness it, that metamorphosis of an individual. There's not a lot of other organizations that you get a chance to see that. And there's not a lot of organizations that you get a chance to see that on a global basis.
Fantastic, Richard. In fact, I can see that in myself. I still remember the time that when I joined Toastmasters back in 2012, when my turn came to give my first speech, the icebreaker speech, I told my mentor back then, I want to go home. I'll give it some other day. He said, it's fine. You can look at the paper and read the speech. And I did that. If I would not have done it, I know for the fact that I would not have been in Toastmasters. Never did I think that time that I would be serving as division director. And our organization indeed gives opportunities to so many people and transform into amazing leaders. Now, about your car racing. We were all curious to know, how did you get into it?
Well, as a young man, I was involved in cars all the time. You know, that was my hobby, was cars, speed, all that. I grew up in the time of muscle cars in the United States. So we were always actively involved. I had gone to a race when I was much younger than that. My father took me to a race and I just became thrilled with the speed, the sound, but really hadn't thought much about it. Racing is, one, it's a very expensive sport, and two, it's time consuming. You just don't go for one day, you have to go for multiple days at a time. So I kind of felt that that was one of those things that was outside my reach, right? And throughout my journey in AT&T, there were always people that I knew that were race car drivers. And one of them asked me to come help out on their crew. So I had been a crew chief for a friend of mine for a number of years and got to meet some really great people and finally decided, you know what, enough of this. Why am I working for somebody else? I'm going to get my own car. I'm going to get my license and people can come work for me for a little while and I can enjoy the race. So in 2008, I decided to make that transition from crew to owner. Had the blessings of my family. You don't do this without the blessings of your family, for sure. Bought my car in 2008, started going for my license. Unfortunately, in 2008, I was diagnosed with stage 4 throat cancer. So that kind of derailed me for a year. But in 2009, got my license and have been racing ever since. Usually I only get to 1 or 2 races a year during this leadership journey. And usually it's right after convention to get away for a couple of days and just relax. Believe it or not, it is kind of relaxing. But I will tell you this, and I know this is probably a very long answer. I learned a lot about leadership being a race car driver, because you have to build a team who's you can trust with your life, right? Because once I'm in the car, I'm just driving it. But I have to have a team that's got everything else set up properly so that as I'm going down the track, nothing goes wrong, nothing explodes. So I really have a team that I literally put my life in their hands. And that tells you a lot about team building when you're looking at it that way.
Fantastic, Richard. That's a beautiful experience. In fact, it's always amazing to experience that rush of adrenaline when driving a race car. I'm hoping that one day I get to see a race car. So, Richard, if there is one aspect you would change about Toastmasters today, what would that be?
Oh, that's a loaded question. I don't know that there's really many aspects of Toastmasters that I would change. I think we still need to look at developing our Pathways program for the future of what communication and leadership looks like, because our program was really based on the time. And the time went away on March 11th, 2020. Time went away. It changed forever.
Yes.
And we know that corporations, based on what we've heard, are not necessarily all going to go back to the office, that a majority will likely be remote locations. It takes a different skill set to be a leader in a virtual environment, to lead meetings in a virtual environment. We know that. I mean, you've experienced that. So thinking of ways to develop a program to be able to encompass that for the future. You know, it's kind of like when we went from communicating on TV, that was a manual in the advanced manual.
Yes.
I'm sure some of you remember that, to podcasting, right? That was not, we didn't have that back then. So now we have to think about what leadership looks like in the future. And my saying is, you can lead virtually, but you can't be a virtual leader. So making sure you have that skill set.
That's a beautiful way to put it, Richard. In fact, my follow-up question, what is your favorite, the old traditional education system or the Pathways?
Oh, I like the new program. I like it a lot. I'm on my third path.
Fantastic.
I really enjoy it. You know, when we talked about the old program, the traditional program, if you will, you know, everyone went back after they got their DTM and went back through the CC manual again. You know, you're doing essentially,
Good,
you gave an
yes.
icebreaker again, right? And you did the body language again.
Yes.
The Pathways, although people think that there's a lot of repetition, it's no different than when you would go back through the CC manual
Yes,
over and
yes, yeah,
over.
yeah.
But I think the new program has got much more potential, the ability to change it quicker, the ability to add new programs quicker,
Yes,
new
yes.
paths to it quicker, plus the ability to take it anywhere and get an evaluation, give a speech anywhere. I did a world tour this year, first time ever for an international president to visit every country in the world. I must have given 80% in Pathways speeches. So out of 161 clubs I'll visit, probably 80% of those were Pathways speeches. Everyone had an evaluation form. They were able to download it off the website, or I was able to email it to them to get an evaluation. It's a different environment right now. And I think the mobility aspect of it is what we need to continue to develop, right? Having it on your phone or on your tablet as an app.
Yes, yes.
To be able to use.
Yes, Richard. In fact, Pathways has made it, everybody can access it anywhere and everywhere.
Yep.
Richard, now $1 million question. How do you manage?
You're paying me $1 million to answer this question? Is that what that said?
Yes. $1 million in kindness. So how do you manage conflict?
I think you manage conflict by stepping outside of it. And I say that because conflict a lot of times is an emotional attachment. Right? You're emotionally engaged. And because of that, you don't step far enough away to really look at it from other points of view. And until you can do that, until you can look at it with a clear head, clear focus, you don't necessarily ever resolve the conflict. Sometimes it just gets buried, right? I'm tired of having the conflict. I'm just going to let it go. And then it never gets resolved. You also have to, in my opinion, start looking at things from multiple points of view to try to figure out what the conflict is a result of. Why is it caused? Was it a simple miscommunication? Was it that I used the wrong term? Did I use a word? And this is a risk when you start speaking internationally, is the word I use translated the same way in another language? Or is it offensive in one way, shape, or form? Is that the reason? Well, that requires a discussion to understand. It requires you to, I can't just say, well, I did nothing wrong. That's a word I'm used to. No, I have to understand the people I'm talking to. There was a conflict once that occurred probably on one of my first multicultural teams that I was leading in AT&T. And I had a group of individuals from overseas that were on my team in the United States. We were working on a huge project. I was managing that team the same way, regardless of where you were. Here's what I need done. I don't micromanage. Here's what I need done. Go, do. And the team in the United States was coming back with their things on a regular basis. All the milestones were being met. My international group, for some reason, wasn't delivering the way I wanted them to. So naturally, as the team lead, I'm getting upset, right? So here's the conflict because I'm getting upset. And it wasn't until I called that individual who was leading my international team and asked, hey, what's going on? Why are you guys not meeting your numbers? You know, I know you've got the skills. I know you're talented. They needed more of a personal contact to lead them through it. I didn't adjust my style for them. I essentially caused the conflict. But if I hadn't had that conversation, if I hadn't been willing to step back a little bit and ask why, it would have never got resolved. And we managed to go on and successfully deliver the project, but it was because you had to take the time. And I think that's, you know, we got to realize that, hey, every once in a while we do something wrong too and take accountability for it. It's not always somebody else.
In fact, I do realize that most of the times a conflict can be resolved by having a dialogue or by sitting across the table and talking to the other person.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
You know, it's hard today. It's
Yes.
hard today, I think, to overcome the conflict. Harder today. Let's put it that way. Harder today.
Yes.
Because back in when we were meeting in person, when the world was united, if you will, you could always go sit with somebody, have a coffee, meet with them in the hallway, have a conversation, and try to work it out. Right now, it's really easy to hit that red leave button if I don't like what I'm hearing, right? And then we don't resolve anything.
Yes. Brilliant. So what was the most important leadership lesson that you've learned that changed your perspective towards life?
Don't try and do it on your own. I think as leaders, sometimes we feel that we're in a position where we're expected to do things on our own. We're expected to know everything. Hey, we were elected or we were appointed to a position of leadership. You must know everything and you must be able to do it. And I see that happen a lot where leaders don't ask for help and it causes them to have difficulty. I think when I finally realized that, one, asking for help wasn't a sign of weakness, it was a sign of wisdom, and that there were people out there who were willing to help leaders and help individuals, that began to change my shift on things. Growing up and early in my career, I was never one who was looking for a mentor. Didn't need it, didn't want it. Yeah, what a wrong idea that was. But it was when I realized that there were those individuals out there, that's when everything changed. My leadership style changed, my communication style changed, the way I operate things in my life made a shift.
Brilliant, Richard. So Richard, what is your top strength and how do you leverage it to help yourself and others?
I think my top strength, and it was something that was pointed out to me, which is also can be seen as a weakness, and I've had that criticism as well, is that I prefer to listen instead of talk. I don't need to hear my words of wisdom all the time. I prefer to listen to people, listen to all the conversation in order to make a well-rounded decision. So a lot of times if I'm in meetings, whether they be board meetings or meetings here in my local government, I'm going to sit back and listen and hear everyone's point of view so that I can make a decision based on all of that. My decision may be totally against what everyone is saying, but I'd like to know what their opinion is and why their opinion is. Yeah, too often times we get caught up in trying to solve something for somebody before they even tell us what the issue is.
Yes.
Right? We've seen that. We'll go and we'll talk to somebody and I know how to fix it. I didn't ask you to. I really didn't ask you to fix it. I just wanted to share it with you. So for me, listening and hearing everything first and then trying to make a decision based on that information, I think is probably my strength.
Fantastic. So Richard, how many people were you able to influence in your family to become Toastmasters?
Well, the only person in my family that would be a Toastmaster is my wife. I don't know that I influenced her as much as others influenced her, but she has taken out. She's actually a PRM. Last year, she did PRM. This year for the district. She's done very well at it. She's actually been asked to do some of the district training. She's done some training in districts overseas as well. So she's grown into it. Now, I will tell you this, when my wife joined Toastmasters, I told her, don't join my club. Don't join my club. Because I was an international director, I think, at the time. Don't join my club. Because I didn't want her getting a treatment of, hey, that's the spouse of the international director. That's the spouse of the second vice president. The club she went to actually didn't even invite her to join the first couple times she went. Kind of that typical not close the sale. They finally asked her to join, and she did join. And they never knew that she was related to the international director, second vice president, whatever I was at the time, until one day finally said, Peck, you're not related to that guy, are you? That's on the board of directors? Went, yeah, that's my husband. Oh, why are you spying on us? No. Just want to have my own experience. But she's done very well with the club. If you ask her, she will tell you she got her DTM in a shorter period of time than I did, which she's proud of. And she reminds me of that all the time. So it's been good for her. And I think she's learned a lot about communication and leadership style as well. However, there is a risk. There is a risk being married to somebody or having a significant other that's a Toastmaster. Because every once in a while, I'll go down to the kitchen and sitting on the island is that white sheet of paper that says, here's what you said last night. Here's what I think you could have said differently. Here's what you could have done. Getting those evaluations first thing in the morning over a cup of coffee.
Yes. So you're currently serving as International President, Richard. Mm-hmm. And most of the times you will be participating in one or the other meetings. Did Betty Ann ever come to you and say, Richard, enough is enough. Let's take a break from Toastmaster?
No, I've done that to her. She's never said that to me, but I've done that to her. So there have been days where, I've been on 4, 5, 6 meetings in a row. Today, I think I have 5. You are the first of 5 today. And I'll go and sit down. We'll go to have dinner. And I got to tell you what's going on in my club. And I'll go, can I just have dinner? I just need to have a few minutes, please. And she looks at me, she's shocked that I would say you got to take some time away from it. But no, she's been extremely supportive. And when I decided to do this world tour this year, I talked to her about it first because it was something that we knew was going to take a lot of time. To visit 145 clubs, 145 countries, I think we started in October. So between October and now, add to that a bunch of clubs that had done special requests like Beyond Toastmasters did. And I think we'll have had probably close to 350 visits this year alone. So surprisingly, no, she hasn't said, please just take some time away, and has been extremely supportive.
That's phenomenal, Richard. Kudos to you and kudos to Betty for spending a lot of time with Toastmasters and with all our members. So, Richard, what is your favorite EC role and why?
Favorite EC role? Oh, this year's been my favorite EC role. I'll tell you that. And that might sound odd. Right? How can this be a favorite role in the most stressful time in the history of the organization, the most historic time in the history of the world? It's been my favorite time because I've been able to do something that no other president has had the opportunity to do. Not because of me, not because it's about me, but it's because I want to know about our organization. I want to be able to connect with our members. I think there's oftentimes that, well, the international president, he's over there. We can't talk to him. We can't invite him. We can't do stuff like that. And this year it was different. I mean, even KK said that at the opening,
Yes.
right? You want to invite the international president? I don't know how we do that. But I learned something about leadership that any aspiring leader or current leader needs to remember. Whether you're going up the corporate ladder in your corporate life, or whether you're going down the pyramid, as is in the Toastmasters life, because of the inverted pyramid, the higher or lower, however you want to look at it, that you go in leadership, the farther you get away from the individuals who got you there. Right? The farther you get away from the individuals who got you there. And this year, I was able to get back to the individuals who got me here. And I think that was what made this such a special year.
Beautiful, beautiful, Richard. So, Richard, when I asked about the EC, I meant the XCOM. I was confused that even at the top board of directors, there's something called EC in the club executive committee.
Yeah, there's an executive. The executive committee is the second vice president through immediate past international president. Yeah. When I was in district leadership, my favorite role, area director, probably, because I think that was the one that was closest to the clubs, closest to the members. Like I said, as you go up, the farther you get away from them, and you need to be able to get back. I think that's where you really get a chance, if you're engaged, to see what clubs are going through, what members are going through, and be able to relay that. There is a risk, though, at being area director, and I know Benita was clapping when I said area director was my favorite role. The area director reports, right? We all have to fill those out. We know we have to fill those out.
Yes.
But the area director report has to be an honest report. And I think sometimes it's glossed over a little bit more than it should be, because, hey, I know that report's going to the club president and this person and that person. And, I don't want to hurt anyone's feeling and saying that, you need to really look at the club. But that becomes the risk then for the district, because it's not a true picture. And I think when area directors are put in that, it can be a little tough for them sometimes, especially if it's their club or they're friends of the club president. But that's how you make leaders. That's how you make strength, is through that honesty. So I know Benito is doing a great job as area director there. And that's, providing those reports helps the district out.
Yes, in fact, area director is one of my favorite roles. When I served as area director last year, it gave me an opportunity to work closely with clubs. That is where we can see the change real time. And when we grow in the leadership roles, most of the times we get a bird's eye view, but to get a drill down view, we have to go to the members, work with them closely. Richard, what are the 3 mistakes that you made in leadership and the lessons that you've learned?
Oh, I don't know that we have enough time left in this call for that, Manny. But,
we have.
I think the 3 biggest mistakes I made was, one, as I mentioned already, waiting too long to understand mentorship. And once I realized to do that, it changed everything. Second mistake I think I made was probably not getting involved as strongly as I could when I started out in leadership. And as I said, I wasn't successful as an area director, but I didn't take the initiative either, right? We often get a handbook or it's online and we expect people to read it. Whether they do or not is up to them. But I think that was a mistake that I made, that I, thought I could just walk into it. This was no big deal. Fill out a couple of reports, maybe host a contest. But I didn't take the initiative there for that. So I think that was something that I learned and needed to do and better understand. And the third, as I mentioned, was not pushing myself to gain new skills as a leader, regardless of whether you're changing role or not. You constantly have to evolve and hone your skills. They're no different than trying to become a better communicator. You're constantly honing those skills. But here's the one thing I think we miss. As leaders, we don't often ask for feedback and evaluation on what we're doing.
Yes.
Right. So if we don't get feedback and we always get elected, even though we're not running against anybody, we always think that we're doing the best, that we've got all the skills necessary. Why change? I'm perfect. It's kind of like that whitewash evaluation. It's the best speech I ever heard. I wouldn't change anything. Keep going. But it's not until you get honest feedback that you can really start to change and develop your skills.
Brilliant, Richard. And thanks for being honest with us. One last question before we conclude. What message would you like to give to first-time officers, be it at the club level or at the district level?
Yeah, the message I would like to give is that just be you. Just be you. Don't try to change because of your title. Don't try to change because of your role. At the end of the day, all of our titles go away, right? Every one of them, whether it's international president, area director, division director, club president, whatever, the title goes away. Guess what remains? The individual. If the individual has changed because of that title, then that individual is not being true to who they are. Right? I've had this conversation recently that I think our titles should be at the end of our name instead of the beginning of our name.
Yes.
Right? It shouldn't be International President Richard Peck. It should be Richard Peck, International President. Why? Because the person leads the title. The title doesn't lead the person. So remember that it's not about the role. Remember, it's not about the title. It's about you helping others. And those of you who have heard my quote in my inauguration speech, being a leader is not about being the center of attention. Being a leader is about being the epicenter of action. That's what you need to do.
Beautiful, Richard. And thank you for sharing your words of wisdom with me and with the members of District 98 and from Toastmasters across the globe. We have several other Toastmasters. So thank you very much for joining Beyond Toastmasters. And thank you very much, Richard, for spending your valuable time with us. Now, I would like to introduce a dear friend, our district director and a special leader. Distinguished Toastmaster Niteash Agarwaal is an IT professional since last 12 years and has been recognized for innovation, customer service, leadership, and going the extra mile. Niteash volunteers at Toastmasters International to spread awareness about importance of public speaking and leadership skills. Over the past 10 years, Niteash has served on various leadership roles and committees which contributed in record-breaking brand awareness, membership, and club growth. Niteash was featured in April 2019 issue of TA magazine for his work as public relations manager. Niteash is a family man who loves to spend time with his son and is following his passion for photography. I am so fortunate to work and learn from him the power of positive and collaborative leadership. All of us know Niteash is famous for his 0123 vision to lead District 98 to greater heights. Please join me in welcoming Niteash Agarwaal. The virtual stage is all yours, Niteash.
Thank you, Manideep. International President Richard, I really felt that you were reading my mind. I had some notes in closing for you and you covered them. So it's like telepathy that happened shortly. Every journey comes to an end. What remains after it are its memories. Moments that are lost once cannot be lived again. These memories that we are making today over here have the ability to put smile on our faces. And all thanks to you, Richard, for graciously accepting our invite. I know, you have been busy throughout the year. Thank you for putting every minute that you have towards the organization. District 98 leaders have attempted to help realize members of District 98 the real potential of Toastmasters by applying and learning the skills that you learn from these sessions from people who have been established using Toastmaster skills outside in personal and professional lives. Everyone will understand how difficult it is to put something in motion, and it's that difficult to sustain and bring it to an end. I am proud of every team member who have worked to bring Beyond Toastmasters alive, and I have been working since start of the year. It has been a tireless effort by everyone, and this new phenomena that we know, Zoom fatigue. Despite being challenging times, they ensured that every session was unique in its way and had a message and a lesson for the people attending. Not only attending, but all the sessions are available on Facebook for viewing. They ensured that thousands of people who are seeing this video take back something from them. I would like to close by thanking our special guest, International President Richard Peck, for his exemplary service throughout the year and highlighting the positives of meeting online. His quotes are something I look forward to, and the one that he recited while ending his keynote today, that is the one that has been my favorite throughout the year. He has been an inspiration to us at District 98. We started the year with him talking about serving in a voluntary organization. And today we are at the end of the term. And again, he has graced us with an excellent message and his inspirational journey in Toastmasters. I still remember meeting him at the Chicago convention. I went to his stall and he had this nice placard where people have written messages. He was carrying a white ball where people have signed. I was so touched the love that he was getting, and he has inspired me to ensure that I continue to work towards leadership. We are grateful for his service and support to us throughout the year. Thank you so much, Richard, from everyone at District 98. And to close, I would say I would encourage everyone to please follow your local government guidelines, get vaccinated, and look forward for an amazing year starting July 1st, 2021. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Richard. And with that, over to you, KK.
Thank you so much, Niteash. Thank you, Richard. Before closing the meeting, I would like to acknowledge my team members, Beyond Toastmasters team members. We have our public relations team, Alpha, Cyril, Mega, Aishwarya, and Furkan, and research team, Jarvis and Srilalita, strategy team led by Hardik Shah, admin manager, Himanshu, and the Avengers team, my favorite team, 15 division directors and 15 area directors from 15 divisions. And of course, the leader of Avengers, Niteash Agarwaal. Thank you so much for making this Beyond Toastmasters possible. And yes, Beyond Toastmasters will return in new year with new learnings in the July 1st. Thank you so much. With that, I would like to adjourn the meeting. And I request all panelists to leave. We'll have a group. Thank you.